Dragon launch, one of the dragons is still eating pie. There's pie over here, courtesy of one of the one that's eating off basically. Welcome to Joshua Yip's and O Tiam Chin's launch. Joshua will be making love with Scrabble tiles. I did not suggest that title, he did. And of course, O's will be Love or Something I Love. And supposedly tonight's book launch theme was supposed to be what? Again, Joshua?
Making love or something like making love.
So yeah, maybe there'll be a third book collaborative effort. We actually noticed, and we did ask them, they call it the
dressing,
dressing, but really no, so it's so appropriate. They'll be reading from their collection. Ask them really, really difficult questions. Ask Joshua about why the book cover is like this. You all should. So I'm gonna let them take over and let them do the reading.
I think the first question is to ask him to explain the book cover, why he chose the particular book cover, and explain why. Yeah, the picture itself.
I chose this book cover. It was forced upon me by my publisher. I wanted to have Scrabble tiles on here and there, but then he said, "Well, some more sexy. Then more sexy will sell more books." So around like January last year, he said, "No, Diana must have this kind of picture." Then I said, "No, don't want." Then I delayed my launch again.
His one doesn't have.
Yeah, my
How come it doesn't have?
That's so contemplative.
Official to explain.
Contemplative, more more romantic. Yours must be horn. Yours.
Okay, because the content of my book is a mixture of love as well as making love. So they wanted to have something more sensual, more sexy for the cover, more eye-catching. So you walk through the bookstore, you're like, what's this? Then you pick it up. Then you look, then hopefully you buy some more. But I think you should explain your cover also.
But why making love? Why making love? Why making love? No. Why making love with Scrabble tiles? What's so fun about making love with Scrabble tiles? I have never made love with Scrabble tiles, so I don't know the joy of making love with Scrabble tiles. Please explain why. Yeah.
Because making love should be something that is fun, something that's exciting. So actually my book is divided into two parts. There's book 1 and book 2. So book 1 is the fun parts, all about like love, happy, I'm in love. Then the second part is like after love finish, what's left over, what happened, then emo, very sad. And a lot of it is like, there's a lot of food, there's a lot of games, and there's a lot of love. So these are the elements that kind of like combine together to form the title. But still, why are there locks on it?
No, we haven't finished yet. So why not Mahjong tiles? Because we had this discussion before. Why not? You talked about the titles, right? Making love with Mahjong tiles. Right? Why not Mahjong tiles? It's a favorite pastime of like Singaporeans.
So on Facebook, we actually launched, we put the title saying, we are doing this combined book launch.
Yeah.
Then he said, okay, Joshua Yip's book launch will be Making Love with Mahjong Tiles. Then I replied, actually, yes, that is one of the possible titles for this book. Because I like the word tiles, I like the idea of games and how they can be woven into poetry. Because words are like a use of games, literature is like playing with words, basically. So with the wordplay in my book and the wordplay in how you convince someone to love you or make love with you, I guess Scrabble tiles are like an apt analogy. Whereas Mahjong tiles are a little bit more like aggressive. You get the feeling of hoda. Yes. So the mentality is slightly different, more aggressive. So why are there locks on your cover?
Why, Sarah? Yeah, Sarah. Why locks? Why locks on my cover?
Sarah over there is the designer,
Sarah is the designer of our books. Yeah.
From Sarah and
Yeah.
Could you explain your design for the cover?
Why locks? Why locks?
That picture was taken in Venice, so it's a bridge in Venice where you're supposed to lock your love with a couple and then you throw the key away. Wow. So I took that picture when I was in Venice and then I thought it was appropriate for the book cover. Yeah, back to you guys.
Okay. In case you guys do not know, Joshua is the winner of this year's Golden Point Short Story Award, right? You won your prize, right? And he's venturing into my turf, short story. Won the first prize. Intensely jealous. And you took only what? A short while to write this story? A short time? A few days? A few hours?
A day.
The story of the title of the story is A Man Who Turned into a Photocopier. So, yeah.
Okay,
How long did it take?
Not hold in anymore than he has held in for me. But actually he's a much more accomplished short story writer who's published 5 volumes of short stories. And he has been longlisted internationally for the Frank O'Connor Short Story Award a few times, which is like a major international award. My one is like for winner writers in Singapore. So very different level.
But that's actually an award, right? I actually submitted my story back in 2005. I wasn't in the top prizes. I wasn't even in the shortlist. So basically, he one-upped me by winning that prize. So
okay, enough mutual was taken. Let's read some things.
Yeah.
I would like to invite Otachi to read something exciting from his exciting short story collection.
Okay. Basically, I'll read a full story, a microfiction, a flash fiction. this piece that is inspired by the... Last year there's a series of sex scandal, right? Involving this 17-year-old girl, Vietnamese girl, right? So a lot of men fell because of her. So I was quite puzzled with this lady, this young girl, 17-year-old, who slept with 50 over men. And partially I was curious about her. I was curious about the group of men who was convicted, who was sent to jail for a couple of weeks to a couple of months. Among them, of course, you know the famous one, Howard Shaw. Yeah, correct. So I'll read the whole story. It's only like 1,000 words, so it's going to take like 3 minutes. It's called The Verdict.
In the meantime, there's actually pie available. It's free for all and no charge required. If you want to eat pie, go ahead and eat pie. I will not be offended. I hope that she won't be offended also.
The verdict. Some of us wanted to sleep with her just for the sake of sleeping with her. Some wanted to do it because they wanted something different in their lives. Some has been doing this for a long time. In their early teens, when they were in the army, when they were courting their girlfriends, and later their wives. Some of us have children. One even had 4, 3 girls, 1 boy. But he was already in his late 50s, and of course, no one mentioned any of this when we slept with her. Some of us really liked her, found her cute, sweet, warm, while others liked the way she looked with her long dark hair, full sensual lips, and the firm grip of her slender hands when she held us. Yes, she was many things to all of us, and we wanted to believe we were special and special to her, and that she really liked us back too. Some of us found ourselves questioning whether it was the right thing to do, being first-timer, though it never stopped us from making our first booking with the agency, one we discovered online, late at night, when our wives and children were sleeping. Some of us did it with our eyes closed, having slept with a girl, or woman, just last week, a weekly affair. Some of us chose to meet her at cheap nondescript hotel at Bencoolen Street, or Balestier Road, where others prefer to splurge like how a man should splurge, extravagantly and healingly on 6-star hotel and expensive suites. A few of us met the girl in our own homes in the suburb, Ang Mo Kio, Tampines, Jurong, and did it on the bed where we slept with our wives every night of our life after we were married. And one of us even went as far as to do it on his daughter's bed, surrounded by her Hello Kitty dolls. Most of us was gentle with her, treating her with respect and politeness, while others went into it like a brute, an animal in heat, in hunger. Some of us held the girl like how we held our wives, adopting the same position and rhythm, making the same grunt and moans. Some wanted to try new things with toys and restraints and punishments. A few of us wanted to be stepped on, spat at and insulted. One even wore the girl's underwear. He gave a huge tip afterwards, he claimed. And always the girl, already seasoned in her role, professional, professed to feel so good. Did we feel good too, she would ask us. Yes, no one has ever made her feel so good. Yes, so good. And all of us wanted to believe this was true, even for those who had barely started and was done in 3 or 5 strokes. No one knew her real name, though it never bothers us. Well, some of us. She could be anyone we wanted her to be. Someone with a clean slate, no history, no complication, no burden of responsibility or duty. She was Linda, Jessie, Yvonne, Madeline, Sarah, Jenny. She was a projection of our desire, a girl that came to us fully formed, fully desired, a fantasy in real flesh. And we went in deep, and more, and for a very brief moment in our life, unfettered, free, alive. Whatever we were, she made us. Some of us was concerned when we first saw her at how young she looked, but none of us asked to find out more. Some women look like young girls, even when they are in their 20s, we told ourselves. A few of us chose her exactly because she was young, and there was something about a young girl that stirred the thick blood in us, that made us breathless, even helpless at the bare sight of her. All of us closed our eyes and went along with what we had decided to do. No point chickening out, too late anyway. She might look young, but her body was all ready, ripe for the reaping. When she sat on top of us, rocking back and forth, Some of us try to kill the images of our own daughter sitting astride our body, wanting to play aeroplane or ride a horse, and almost instantly we got soft. Some of us, when holding her breast, too big for a young girl, just nice for a woman, we felt. We think about our wives, how different or similar they were, the weight, the softness, the shape, and secretly took comfort in the familiarity of foreigners. To most of us, a woman's body would always be a foreign country, with its own laws, customs, and secret passageways. And no matter how many of them we slept with, we would always be visitor, looking in, curious and fascinated, but always lacking local knowledge, left out. Most of us didn't want to think about the implications or consequences. Fear was contagious, and we didn't want any of it. We weren't thinking with our head, or we were just thinking with the second head, one of us joked. And because we were careful, though some of us gave our real name and phone number, stupid bastards, and diligent in covering our tracks, we thought we could get away like masked robbers after a heist, and get on with our jobs and family like nothing was amiss. And some of us did, already putting the girl behind us, moving on, while others chose to go for seconds and thirds, raising the stakes. A few even wanted to keep her as a regular, a girlfriend of sorts, which sounded ridiculous to some of us. Yes, it's true, some of us did really love the girl, even after what happened later, when all of us were revealed for what we had done. We believed we finally had a chance at love, or something like love. We really did.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
can I steal the lines, a woman's body is a foreign country? How do you use future poems?
Okay.
A lot of opportunities.
Okay.
So what made you write this?
Well, I was
Besides the
inspired.
story?
I was inspired by it, and I'm always curious about women. Yeah, a woman's body, a woman's mind, a woman's feeling. So it's a way. I mean, in writings we explore mysteries. I think part of the joy and privilege of writing is that you explore certain things that are foreign to you. And to me, woman is the most foreign thing to me. So yeah, you have to work it out. Do you work out a lot of stuff in your story?
My original plan was to see whatever you read, then try to bounce something off from there.
Okay.
But I have no poems about teenage prostitution. But okay, like something about some stuff about body and like the female body and our interaction with it. So I'll try and read something similar to it. So there's one poem I wrote that is about the experience of how like your intellect is like your clothes and how you actually put it on as like a means of interaction with the world around you. So when you date someone, whether you're a guy or a girl, you put on things, you put on modes, you put on attitudes. And so this poem I wrote is actually called Honestly. Honestly, the way your diaphanous intellect clings to you like a second skin and leaves nothing to the imagination, like it's practically see-through yet barely achieves the obscuration of my interest in the honest bits of you, makes me believe you put it on. It makes me want to undress you of your mind and me of mine, undo the catches in each sentence, shed the seamless arguments, doff the irony-clad accoutrements, where a stark naked girl and boy can slip off their sarcastic shifts into something more comfortable to make poor choices, like love in the language of small animal noises. I'm going to read another like body poem. So this collection called Making Love at Scrabble Tiles, and actually part of it was inspired by this poem I wrote. That's also about something like love and board games. So do you know the board game like Battleship? It's the one where you
Yes.
you call numbers A2, A4, A5, A pom, pom, pom. And if you know of strip poker, there's actually a variant called Strip Battleship. And this poem is called Strip Battleship. Before I start, I should explain the rules of Strip Battleship. It's like strip poker. So you play Battleship, and then you bomb the Battleship, bomb destroy, and then you remove a piece of clothing, and you continue from there. So Strip Battleship, a poem in 4 parts. Part 1. Thursday night, Strip Battleship, a soul submarine defending my manhood. You observe how hard it is to tell what I'm thinking. At that time, it was hard not to think of the scene if fortunes were reversed. You dangling one sockless foot in mockery. I pictured the submarine captain as he cursed my strategy. Death charges rocked the sea, the near miss on my face never apparent. In sum, I took it as a compliment. Part 2. A submariner's life is lonely, crude, and cramped, lived unknown to the fairer sex. His nuclear load ensures his solitude. He keeps a fey companionship with Rex. Water carries sound, but he won't trace his echo. Jealously he guards his words. You cannot read a submariner's face. He will not budge at plank or waterboard. He has no one he loves that you can threaten. You'll never get the launch codes from the captain. Part 3. And you, all over the map, you can't be missed. You're an attraction. How you put yourself out there puts me out. Are you any less invisible? My silence and your chaff and flare are equal shield. Where every call a hit, but where the heart? I don't know what I'm sinking. Feeling, failing, each shot a new ship. I cannot tell which thought you're truly thinking. I cannot bear the fact you will not bear, strip teasing down through endless underwear. Part 4. A cabin with a mirror for a window. I peer long both into and out of it. You could be on the other side, although you clearly would get off as you saw fit. You don't get me. Who does? I've lost all hope of getting through to you. You suspect there's someone else. I sigh, up periscope. Lens tint your green-eyed rage a rose aspect. Bird's-eyed, you overlook my fish-eyed view. You can't see me. All I can see is you. And I'll read one last poem about food. Actually, I'll make it open choice. Do you want to hear a KFC poem or a Jumbo seafood poem? Hands up for KFC.
KFC. Oh, Jumbo there.
Hands up for Jumbo seafood.
Jumbo.
Okay, KFC or KFC. This poem is called How Will You Know It's Good? It's a test for first relationships. How can you tell if something is really going really well? How will you know it's good? First dates and fancy restaurants are fine. But you reach a point in some relationships when you ask her if she wants to make a trip to KFC and she says yes. A line is crossed right there, drawn with an oily finger. It's love when you watch her stuff her fat face full of deep fried chicken and it's beautiful. Each greasy crunch, each first bite of the zinger, when the mayo squirts on both of you, when you begin to see her through an oily haze, when your crisp love rises on hot wings, perfumed with secret herbs and spices, what will you sacrifice for her? Will you save her skin? Men bare their souls by sharing their fried chicken. How will you know it's good? My finger licking. Thank you.
Okay, so in case you guys don't know, he also won the second prize for Golden Point, right? In poetry in 2007, right?
Yes.
Yes, correct. So that's why he writes beautiful poems. Okay.
It's because I'm a beginner poet and prose writer, so I submit for the beginner competition. I think poetry to prose is an interesting transition to make.
Yes.
Because you approach it from a different point of view. Poetry, everything must be very short, very compact. And I try to write like sonnets and like formal pieces. So that means there are strict rules, everything must go into like strict holes. It's like almost like Sudoku. It's a crossword filling exercise. But prose is slightly more expensive, you can like ramble a bit more, extend your story much longer. But so when I feel that when I move from poetry to prose, I try and bring a bit of that discipline back into prose as well. So I hope that my choice of words is also quite tight when I actually try and write prose. So it takes me actually quite long, like slowly writing.
So how long did it take for you to write the Golden Point Award story?
That one I took one day because it was in my mind already.
One day.
Have you ever thought of moving from prose into poetry?
No, never. I actually tried writing poetry when I started writing back in 2005. I submitted my collection to the publisher here, but all of them rejected me. Which in retrospect, I was very glad. I only stored a hard copy of this collection and found it somewhere in my cupboard, way below, behind some of the oldest books. So I don't think I can ever be a poet.
Why do you feel it's bad?
I don't think I have that mind, that discipline. I like a bigger canvas to work with. I like a lot more tools to work with. I think with being a poet, right, you need a different skill set. You need a different mind. My mind has been kind of structured in a way over the years to think like a short story writer. So when I read good poetry, it's almost like looking at a very delicately, exquisitely designed like pie. It's just so beautiful that sometimes you don't want to eat it. So
actually, I feel that longer things are easier to write than shorter things. Because when you, like, let's say you go into the business world, normally people won't tell you to write longer, tell you to write shorter, to like be more condensed, to be sharper with your thoughts. So even in like academic writing, business writing, corporate writing, everything is also shorter. And if you have a lot of time, it's actually, you spend most of it trying to make it shorter. Whereas the first part where you just write, it's not actually that hard to like have that first rush of words. So for me, I actually struggle to actually keep things shorter and shorter and shorter. To me, that's the bulk of time that I spend doing things.
How long do you
like
take
churn is good.
How long did it take for you to finish up this collection?
This one,
Yeah.
I guess about a year,
A year. Okay.
more or less a year.
A year. Okay. But you published something last year, right?
Yes, that also took about a year
A
as
year.
well.
Okay. So are you moving into like short story now? You have published one in the Cats anthology, right? From the Belly of the Cats.
I moved into short stories by publishing a series of things for other people's anthologies. So I wrote one in the cat. There's this anthology called From the Belly of the Cat.
This one.
The one is the blue color one that got cat.
Great,
by
great
Stephanie
anthology.
Yeh.
Very.
If you love cats, then you will love this anthology. And he also has a poem, there's a short story inside the anthology as well. And I have one more in this thing called Balik Kampung, which is a collection of stories edited by Marina Tay about people who have stayed in one place for more than 10 years. So actually it's very illuminating to see like how you stay in one place and you develop feelings for it in Singapore. Toa Payoh, Ang Mo Kio, Whampoa, anywhere in Singapore they've just been for a very long time. You realize it actually changes very fast. And in Singapore, you know, like things rise and they fall over like a matter of days, months, weeks. So it's interesting to see, actually read, to see how writers respond to their past being both renovated, taken away, improved, whatever you call it. And yeah, there are actually 3 versions of Balik Kampung. There's Balik Kampung 1, Balik Kampung 2A, Balik Kampung 2B, and they're all floating around the bookstore in various places. So I invite you to also go and look around and see different things.
Yeah. In fact, the anthology is it's a collection of most writers who have stayed in a district or a place for 10 over years, right? Yeah. So, which place you write about?
I wrote about actually my one is the least cultural and historical because I wrote about McDonald's and Beauty World Plaza.
Yes. Okay. So do you intend to write more short stories?
I think so. I enjoy writing poetry more because I find it slightly more. I enjoy the mental discipline of like squishing things together. But I feel that more people read prose in general. And there's a sense that poetry is like difficult, harder to write, harder to read, harder to accept for most people. I don't know if you find this to be true, whether like prose, like story easier to read, or like poems easier to read. Is there a sense that like poetry is like chill,
Very chill. Very chill. Yeah.
out of touch? Yeah. I mean, I felt my first collection is called Solace from English, and to me it was a deliberate reaction to that sense that poetry is very chill, very hard. Because ultimately, if you look 100 years back to history, poetry is what Facebook and Twitter were today. They were the status updates of those days. People would like hang out in the corner, then they would recite poetry, they would talk about poetry. Because that was their means of expression. Both something that can be shared, something that can be recited, something that can be sung. And so poetry back then was more musical, there was more rhyme, it was shorter. So you can actually memorize things like that. It's like the Bible, it's like oral history. Things that are simple to remember, easy to catch. And in a sense, I think that we as poets, modern poets, we have wandered a little bit too far away from that. In writing stuff that is a bit more obtuse and a bit less musical. So I tried to actually put more rhyme and rhythm into my first collection. But yeah, we'll see how. See y'all like
I recall reading your story, your first collection, and I saw this strange culture references from TV show. So you mentioned the unbeatable. And you, yeah, 上天之尊. So you mentioned Li Nanxing. So you mentioned that the quote that you quoted from the series. What's the quote?
我要用10块钱影响你整个赌场.
Yes, correct,
I want
correct.
to use $10 to win your entire casino.
Correct, correct. And I realized when I was reading Amanda Ko Lee's collection, and she used the exact same quotes that you did. Yeah. So why Li Nanxing?
This one I'll make sales pitch.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't understand, there was this show in the 1990s in Singapore by then SBC, Singapore SBC.
SBC.
Today Mediacorp, then TCS.
TCS.
No. Unbeatables 2 and 3 was TCS. Unbeatables 1 was still SBC. Really, 1994. So it's about gambling and people like doing strange card tricks with like dice and like cards flying here and there. And to me, this was an emblematic period of my childhood. Like every night I'll rush home and I watch Shall Mugisha. And the first episode of this TV serial contains a scene where the hero called Yan Fei, played by Li Nanxing, who was the king of Caldecott Hill at that point of time. He was getting married. Then he goes to his like wedding and he finds his like wife in bed with another man who is like the owner of the casino. Then he's very pissed off. So he goes to the casino and then he says, take out $10. 我要用10块钱影响你整个赌场. Because his father is a gambler and taught him all the skills to like pop, listen with his ears, like what the dice will do. So that was my childhood, a lot of fantasy. And that was fantasy for me. Other people's fantasies are Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. But back then I think we had good local stories to tell. And things that have stayed in our heritage, our mindset. I don't know whether TV is like that for you all these days, whether there's like any strong local stories on TV. I feel that has been kind of overrun by Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, so on and so forth, which are wonderful things, you know. But yeah, I wanted to like kind of preserve that. Amanda Lee Cole, I'm going to sell other people's books now. If you look around, there might be some book, I don't know if it's here, with a pink colour cover. Out of stock. It's so good that it's out of stock. It's a pink colour book with an eyeball in front.
Alvin's fault.
How come?
Yeah. You bought all.
There was a free
You bought all?
On Facebook, there was this thing going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
Oh.
just erupted. Then of course, when thing erupted, and a lot of people keep asking.
This is a good story to tell.
Yeah.
Okay, the book is called
Okay.
Ministry of Moral Panic by Amanda Lee Cole, who is a young new writer. So Alfian bin Saad, who is this like Malay poet, who is like probably the best poet in Singapore.
Yes.
He read the book. The first story is about a Malay guy with 4 wives who was a rock star, mud rocker,
Yeah, mud rocker.
and then he got a Chinese crush when he was young, and something like that. Then he read, he saw it. Alfian didn't take nicely to that because today where got Muslim got 4 wives in Singapore doesn't make sense. It's like misrepresentation of culture. Then there were a few other inaccuracies about the use of the burqa, the tudung, so in the first 3 stories. So he read 3 stories and said, "Oh, this is rubbish. This is like unrepresentative or whatever." Blah, 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 blah. So he gave her a terrible review on Facebook. Then there was a lot of back and forth. A lot of like fellow people said, "No, this is very good. No, this is very bad." Then he actually read the whole book because he said he felt that he was obliged to actually finish it to get a good review. And then he recanted his comment and said, "No, actually, this is the best book written in Singapore for a very long time." And there was actually more detail and more depth in the representation of characters in the book. And I was just trying to say that this is the best book written in Singapore for a very long time. And
Yes,
all you can buy it.
agreed. I think it was the best like short story and top collection, at least in the recent year that I read, from a local author Fillmore, right?
In the commercial is what I was talking about encapsulating that slice of our culture that is unique to us. Not manufactured in the sense of like Marina Bay Sands, in the sense of like they draw one place called this heritage zone and say it is ours. Things that we have all seen growing up, things that we remember. Whether it's, to me, if you talk about kampong, we talk about like Heping the Taijia, 1960 Singapore, I don't feel any connection. Even if you talk about Bukit Brown, I feel no connection to Bukit Brown at all. I didn't know Bukit Brown existed until they said it was going to be demolished. Because I'm also younger. I'm a child of the 80s, of the 90s. So to me, the strongest memories are things like the Habitables. Things like even McDonald's, growing up in the kind of culture. And to me, that's a slice of culture that also has to be rewarded or upheld or remembered in its own way. And I'm glad there's a generation of Singapore writers coming up, like Amanda Lee, and hopefully myself, that are trying to represent that and to hold that for the next generation. Because for the longest time, we've been trying to find our own culture, and maybe not doing that well, but we tried a bit in the 90s. And then now it seems that we have given up. It's like, whole lot just popular American whatever shit, which is perhaps inevitable, but I guess we would like to try it a bit. Singapore.
Well, I see that when I was reading your Golden Point Award winning story, The Man Who Turned into a Photocopier, there are actually very darkly comical moments in this story about this man who transformed into a photocopier and this office affair that took place between Winnie and Mr. Leong. So it's actually very funny. How do you come up with the idea of that story? Did you read some particular story that inspired you to write that story?
I was inspired by Kafka's Metamorphosis. Kafka is this German, European wrote a very long time ago about a guy, this average like dude, salaryman, who turned into a cockroach. Not cockroach.
No,
Beetle.
yeah.
Dung beetle. Dung beetle. And it's one of those famous stories in literature. Not because a man turning into a beetle is exciting, it's because it was a satire on my society and how they treated him. They viewed him as a beetle. Okay, that doesn't sound like a good explanation. The human beings were very fast to react to his transformation and to treat him like a beetle and to treat him as who he was. And in doing so, they both animalized themselves as well as him. And I feel that we can relate to that a bit as Singaporeans, in that how our culture turns us a bit into machines, and how people can be like machines, and the machine actually can be a bit more human than the machine. So I tried to write more human characters into the photocopier man, and more machine characters into the non-photocopier people. And I think that there's actually room for more satire in Singapore writing, because Singapore writing is occasionally very inward-looking, very introspective, reflective, a bit emo, so to speak, which is not wrong, which is not bad, and it's an exploration of what's honest in us. But I feel that as we have a new, almost political awareness in the last 3 to 4 years, there's actually room for people to write things with more concern about the wider atmosphere, without writing something as simple as PAP sucks, that kind of thing, which is like no value add to me. I think issues can be addressed with more maturity and more depth by writers who can approach the issues from both sides. So not the real Singapore versus Straits Times. There's room for somewhere in the middle. And I think that writers can do more of that.
Good, yes.
What do you feel about that?
I second that. So, do you plan to write a collection of short stories? Do you plan to sell it to Mass Paper Press or?
Yeah, I'm not trying to sell this paper press. But if paper press is still can tahan or not.
Can, right? Okay.
Here I'll make a sales pitch. So, as some of you may know, there's a thing called My Paper Press, and all those books like behind down there are all local writers.
Correct.
If you look back to 2011, 2010, there were not so many local titles around. If you look to the 2000s, 1990s, maybe there was like maybe 3 poetry collections a year, 2 short story collections a year, something like that.
Yeah.
Very, very scarce, very, very rare, but like very few number of publishers in Singapore. And the last 2 years, My Paper Press has produced 76 collections, 76 books of art, poetry, prose, plays, whatever it is, in 2 years, which I think is more in 2 years than it have been in like 5, 6, 7 years before that. And it is largely, to me at least, because of this bookstore, which has just turned 8 years old. A lot of the previous publishers in Singapore, like Ethos, First Fruits, and what's the last one? Landmark,
Yeah, Landmark.
Epigram, are publishers, so they publish books and they don't really sell the books. But what this place does is that they publish the book and they put it on the front line and they sell it to everybody. If you look at that selected row down there, all those like pro international authors, inside in the middle got some My Paper Press authors as well.
Yeah.
So what they actually do is push the books out. And the bookstore, I think, is popular, it makes money, but these books may not make that much money because local literature is like, for some reason, seen as like not cool, not special. People always buy foreign talent. So I would urge everyone who actually has feelings for Singapore, buy local lit, support this bookstore, keep it going. Because every time he prints one of those stacks of like 1,000 books, it's like 10K gone into space, which may never come back. And if he is to keep doing this, he needs support from everybody. So I wouldn't just buy one book, I would buy many friends, throw away, show along the road, or at least spread the news. Like the page on Facebook and see what you can do.
And part of the reason why I decided to publish my latest collection with Mass Paper Press is because of Kenny's passion and vision about how the scene is going to unfold. I think if you look back, 10 years down the road, if you look back, right, you realize you'll be part of the institution, part of something that's movement, going on to promote like local literature. And I wanted to be part of this. I have moved around from publisher to publisher. My last 2 publisher was Malaysian. So when I want to come back here as I want to choose a local publisher, right? Without any hesitation, I decided to go with Mass Paper Press because I was convicted. I was convinced by what Kenny was doing. I could have easily gone with other publisher, but I think with what Kenny's doing, with the kind of books he's publishing, with the kind of new writer he's promoting endlessly, and I feel that there's something that not any publisher will understand, that they are always pushing for sales figures, pushing for more books to be sold, pushing for a certain kind of books to be sold. So I didn't like that. I like that Kenny has a way of speaking to a particular audience who are passionate about books, passionate about local fiction, local literature. And yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing to do.
So if you're not feeling it, what you can do is go to Popular and then ask them, hey, do you stock any Mass Paper Press titles? Then you don't have, can you stock some Mass Paper Press titles please? Then repeat every Popular that you see, and then go to the borders, the fake borders, go there and ask them, hey, what literary books are Mass Paper Press? Yeah. Do that. That will do as much as buying these books for us. And now, since we talk about nonsense, I'm open to the floor for Q&A. If not, there's a lot of time waiting for you.